girl, I got this damn master's degree and all the time. How could I don't have any damn money?
That part.
What was a trigger from when you were in this place of grief and loss to and life changes and all this other stuff where you said, I'm going to focus on this?
Mm-hmm. I think it was less of a trigger and more like a avalanche. I think less of a trigger, more like a tsunami, like a wave. And the first one was calculate your net worth. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I got one of them.
Right.
I've heard of this thing.
I ain't got it.
I know Oprah's got one.
Right.
Like Beyonce has a nice net worth,
right.
But me?
What's up, listeners? Get ready for raw, unfiltered, laugh out loud conversations among friends. So take your bra off, get comfy, and let's jump into our show.
Well, first we have to say, we're so sorry we miss you, Fiorella. But this child, and this is my friend Jacent, and we're going to introduce her more in detail. But let's talk about Fiorella for a second. But this child called me the other day and was like, oh, I have to have some dental work done a Friday morning. And this is a Friday. We record on Fridays. But I'll be there for the podcast. And I was giving her the mental side eye. Like, girl, no, you're not. And sure enough, later this afternoon, she called and she's like, yeah, I'm just not going to be able to make it. So we all wish her happy healing and everything. I hope she's doing great. And so there are some questions and some things that she has definitely was like, Jennifer, make sure you mention this while I'm on the podcast. So in spirit, Fiorella is in the empty chair today. So, but anyway, right now we've got Jacent Wamala. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah. So before we get into all the nitty gritty, because you know your stuff and I'm really excited to dig in, what was your day like? How has your week been?
So I'm trying to do this new thing with my kids, Fun Day Friday.
Okay.
And it looks different.
Okay.
We talk about finances. So I'm like, I don't want every single one to have to be about spending money because I want them to also just have things simple things that we do, that we enjoy. But today we spent some money.
And the kids are like, finally.
Oh, no, yeah. They had a great time. They had a great time.
Wait a second. So you're telling me all this time growing up, my mom could have been like doing Fun Day Friday and spending money and giving me like money lessons. And we could have gone to the store. You hear that, Mom? You hear that? We could have been doing
You could
stuff.
do Fun Day Friday now. You still, as adults.
Hey, I'm still calling her like Barbara. Where are you?
Barbara.
Yeah, that's her name.
Let's set up our new Fun Day Fridays.
Exactly. Well, I have been binging all sorts of TV. So I've kind of been off for the week because my daughter was visiting. She's a little bit older, so she's 21 now and wanted to experience Las Vegas as a 21-year-old. So my back, my feet, everything hurts because I experienced it with her. And let me just say, I am not 21. So we had a great time to be talked about and not on camera. We had a great time, but I am feeling it. So the last couple of days when I was out, I was just binge watching Bridgerton, Love is Blind, all that mushy stuff that, is just, I call it brain candy. So it's not exactly intellectual.
You gotta just enjoy yourself sometimes.
You need that. But one of the things that struck me, especially right ahead of our conversation, because we were watching Bridgerton. So it was not just my daughter, but it was my daughter, her friend, and her friend's mom. And her friend's mom had never seen Bridgerton before. So she's watching it. We're watching the first season and she's getting caught up. And she said to me, gosh, it's crazy how much these young ladies didn't know about anything and how they were supposed to like keep the household and make the babies, but they were kept out of any real money decisions. And so I'm like, what an interesting segue into our conversation today about understanding money and understanding all the things that go into impacting money and how you're feeling about it, etc. And we can thank Bridgerton for that.
Well, first off, I absolutely love Bridgerton. Even though I haven't seen this season yet, I've actually been holding off because I'm probably just gonna sit and binge it all. But and I absolutely love Shonda Rhimes. So me too. What I do also feel like is connected is this idea specifically for how I work with women in particular is that the world is a better place when women have money. And it's evidenced in things like Bridgerton because it's created by a woman of color who employs and tells stories about diverse people. And if more women were empowered financially to be able to do whatever they want in the world, it would just be, I feel like, more dynamic.
I agree. I think the world's better when women have choice. And to me, money is such a great tool for choice and agency, and so that they can do a lot of things that they do. So this is a really great time to introduce you, because people are like, all right, why is this lady over here talking about money? Well, that's because Jacent Wamala is a licensed marriage and family therapist and women's wealth coach. She's a self-published author and award-winning podcast host with over 10 years of experience. And you know what? She has been on the Today Show, Good Morning America, New York Times, Shondaland, because we love Shonda, People, Fast Company, Bloomberg, and more. So we are not talking about just some person I found off the street with great skin and hair. I'm just saying has a lot of experience. Personally, she's paid off over $94,000 in student loans and credit cards in just 3 years before you turn 30. And it was on that journey that she realized the connection between mental health and money. And all the women she worked with in therapy mentioned money as a major stressor. And I can relate to that. So as a founder of Wamala Wellness, LLC, she's educating and encouraging and empowering women to transform their money mindset, to build wealth without burning out, and create financial freedom faster so they can use money to create an impact in the world. That's a mouthful, but it's good stuff. So basically, Jacent knows her stuff. She's helped so many people, and Fiorella wanted me to make sure I said, including her, she's in one of your programs and has just been really excited about how her whole money situation has improved. So I would like to start off by saying, like, how do you go from being a counselor to a top women's wealth coach?
It definitely wasn't what I thought I would be doing. Mm-hmm. So I feel like growing up, just like many people, we kind of get this checklist, like, go to school, get a good job, like get married. There's this scavenger hunt we're all sent on with the same things on it. Mm-hmm. And I did those things. I went to school, I got a job, I got married, and then I got divorced. That wasn't a part of the plan.
Right.
And I went into all of this debt that I didn't have a foundation of financial literacy to understand how to manage money. And so it was this combination of not having grown up learning a lot about money, like many people, we don't learn about it at school or at home. And also life happening, because for me, I ended up getting divorced and losing my father just a few months after that. Oh. So it was this period of time where I was just kind of in what I call like a grief storm. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, not having financial literacy. Mm-hmm. So life's happening, which is a lot of the people that I talk to. And your finances have to still be attended to or not.
Right.
and there are repercussions and consequences for that. So it was my own personal finance journey and figuring out like, I don't know anything about.
Say shit. It's okay.
Oh. It might have been some other words. Yeah, I was like, oh man. And then most of the people in the therapy room also mentioning money as a major stressor. I worked with a lot of women at the time in the therapy room. So I was like, what's missing here? Because we all have gotten the degrees and on paper have like done the things that are supposed to make us successful, but we're missing this huge piece when it comes to money. And it was like just a rude awakening.
I think you'd mentioned this whole idea of not being financially literate, but I think we're taught, don't discuss money, don't discuss religion or politics, or don't do that. And so it's like, you can have these very smart people, and I was in the same boat. I love the idea of the scavenger hunt, because it's true. We're all sent on that same scavenger hunt. But I like to think that I knew how to deal with money, and I did to an extent, but not to really think of it as this really great, useful tool and this thing that I could leverage and just have a comfort with it. Whereas I think my male counterparts were always like encouraged in stock market and trading and all this other stuff. Whereas I noticed a lot of me and my female friends were less comfortable. And so you saw this giving away of power to a spouse, to a boyfriend, to a coach, to an investment person, just because many of us were not comfortable dealing with money. And it was only until my mom went through a divorce, well, to my father, but my mom started really taking control of her situation. She got books. She started working with a financial planner who she trusted deeply, still works with her to this day. And then she started giving us books. So there's a lot that you said about, why do you think that a lot of us don't know what we're doing when it comes to money, or have some blocks around money?
There's some layers to it. I call it like the 3 B's: background, beliefs, and boundaries.
Okay.
So your background is what you learned or didn't learn about money growing up. The things that were either said explicitly or the kind of covert stuff that you pick up when someone goes to get the mail and there's bills, or the way that people, the little comments that family or friends will say about money when you go out or something, right? Like growing up, you know, do you have McDonald's money or whatever? You know what I mean? Like
we got McDonald's at home.
Right. So it's like just all of these little things that we pick up. That's your background.
Yeah.
And those things are happening in your younger years. They start to create your beliefs. And so whatever it is you think you're capable of, worthy and deserving of, and able to access, which create then your boundaries. So, or the lack thereof. Because sometimes we're like, well, I work hard for my money. You know, I deserve. Yes, you do deserve to enjoy yourself and have a good time and have the weekend, you know?
Friday fun day.
However, future you also deserves to have financial security and peace as well. So it's finding this balance between those two things. And when you're able to kind of go backward and say, okay, well, what am I doing or not doing with money right now? And why is that the case? Which is asking about your beliefs. And where did that come from? So that you can untangle some of it to act like, is this something that I still want to inform how I'm acting with money? Or do I need to change that?
I always think that I always tell people that as we're kids and young adults even, we're heavily influenced by our family, our friends, our culture, whatever. But at a certain point, we kind of have to own our shit. And so I think I see that happening better when it comes to certain things, but not with money. Because with money, it can feel so like there's a lot of shame. So let's say you get into we all know, if we are not the person who took out those credit cards on the college campuses, they were all like, here, sign up for the card. I had friends who had like 12 cards. I was like, but I had friends who had like 12 cards. And then I know people who've gone through divorces and they went from one financial situation to another. People who have ridiculous amounts of student loan debt. Why do you think there's so much shame around that versus other big life chapters where, you know, we need a reset, we need help? I think people are less apt to ask for help around this particular topic.
Yeah, because it's about so much more than the money itself. It's about, oftentimes money is wrapped up in, for me, it was like grief and loss and right. And for some people it's about identity. Yeah. And so for each person, they have their own cocktail of mental, emotional things that are tangled up in their financial decisions or circumstances, because you get divorced, and regardless of whether it was an amicable divorce or not, there's so much emotional stuff tied up in all of that. And sometimes you're just like, how did I find myself in this situation? I know that was a question that I asked myself.
Same.
When I started, girl,
I got this damn master's degree and all the time. How could I don't have any damn money?
That part.
Yes.
And so for a lot of people, because we were taught or told, like, go to school, like we got the handbook for the other things, somehow we think that we're supposed to be better at finances than we are, but we never learned about it. So technically we're like in elementary school when it comes to finances, and that's okay, because everything.
Some of us are toddlers.
Some of us, you know, we're starting with the fundamentals, and it's okay. So, and I think everyone kind of has this reluctance to be a beginner or to look like a beginner in something. And so I think because we don't want people to like judge us or look at us differently, or to be vulnerable, right? To talk about money requires vulnerability, which is challenging, to say the least, that it just doesn't happen. We're like, well, wait, there's never a perfect time. Who do I talk to about this? Other people are in their own situations. And sometimes if you're a person who has the master's degree, you are accomplished in other areas of your life, you're like, well, I'm going to say that to somebody, and they're going to be like, well, you have a good job, so what's
wrong with you?
What's wrong? Or what? And so then feeling like maybe like you're either unrelatable or people are not going to get it, or think that you actually have a challenge because you are so competent in these other areas that it becomes really isolating. And so because we don't have this habit of talking about things, it's just easier to keep it to yourself.
I love the fact that you pointed out all the emotional pieces behind it, because it sounds like money isn't really even the issue. It's all the other stuff. And I think maybe that, because when I've listened to other money coaches or financial advice, nobody ever tackles that piece. So you having that counseling background, what are some of the pieces that you're applying from that background to help people with their money goals?
If money were about math, we'd all have more of it.
That is what my finance professor used to say. In my master's program, he said, if people were logical, if we followed the rules of money, there would be no debt, everything would be paid off. But he's like, but that never happens. Money is about emotions. And I still remember, I can't remember your name, professor, whatever your name is, but he was my favorite prof in that program. And to this day, I thought his advice was solid. It was never about the math. He says, it's not about the math. He's like, I'm going to teach you the math and understand this is about people.
Oh my gosh. It's so good, because you can look at money on paper and it's simple. Like, we actually all kind of know what we're supposed to do with money on paper. You probably don't want to have a lot of debt. Yeah. We probably should save some money. We should probably plan ahead, like on a general perspective, we know what we're supposed to do, but we haven't been taught to understand how those two things integrate, both the money on paper and psychology. Yeah. And so that's where, for us, we start with the psychology, because the tactical stuff is easy. I literally have students tell me all the time, wow, that wasn't as bad as I thought. I know. They're like, oh, it was actually kind of fun. Amazing, But we have to tackle this first, because if we don't, I can tell you anything on paper, but if there's this obstacle in your mind, it's automatically going to discredit or keep you from being able to progress. And so I actually have all my students read a book called The Lies We Tell Ourselves, The Psychology of Self-Deception, to kind of understand what their beliefs are around money, so that they can start to rewrite those narratives and create a new one, so that they can try something different than they're already doing, because we get in cycles, right? Yeah. And so when we think about money like a muscle, what money muscle is exercised the most? Our spending muscle, because we have to pay our bills. We have to eat. So that one gets exercised more. Therefore, it's the strongest. We have other money muscles like investing, like, paying off debt, but they just haven't been exercised. They're kind of weak. And so it's like, okay, you've got a strong spending one, but let's show you how to start exercising your savings muscle, exercising your investing muscle, or building your business, your earning potential muscle. And it really, as maybe cliche as it sounds, all starts in the mind.
Yeah, no, it doesn't sound cliche at all. I was going to say, because it all starts in the mind. So tell us, what was your trigger when you decided to, you looked and I've got $94,000 in debt, or maybe you didn't even know that, but what was the trigger from when you were in this place of grief and loss and life changes and all this other stuff, where you said, I'm going to focus on this?
I think it was less of a trigger and more like a avalanche. I think less of a trigger, more like a tsunami, like a wave. So Christmas 2016, my cousin, who's very accomplished academically, financially, all those things, he has a tendency to give me books for Christmas. Okay. I ain't never read none of the books he gave me. I'm not gonna lie. But I read this one. Okay. So this book he gave me for Christmas, and it was called The Smart Money Woman.
Okay.
And so it just seemed intriguing, and it was written in a way that was easy to digest and get through. So he gave me that book, and I started it probably end of 2016, early 2017. In each chapter, there was these little questions to answer. And the first one was, calculate your net worth. And I was like, I got one of them.
Yeah, right.
I've heard of this thing.
I ain't got it.
I know Oprah's got one.
Right.
You know, like Beyonce has a nice net worth,
right.
but me?
Yeah.
And so I calculated, and I actually have like the paper still at home to this day. On January 3rd, 2017, I calculated my net worth, and at that time, it was negative $70,000. Wow. So the 94 wasn't until I actually paid everything off. I was approximately about $70,000 in debt. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh. Because you don't see everything all in one place.
No.
Your car payment's over here. Your medical bills are there. Your rent is over here. Like your credit card's over. You don't have an aerial picture of what's going on with your finances. Right. So you actually don't even know where you're at on the money map, we'll call it. And so it wasn't until I did that exercise, I was like, what do we want the net worth to be? It just started opening up Pandora's box of questions in my mind. Yeah. And crazily enough, 2016, this is a year after I graduated from graduate school. And I also did my taxes around that time. That's when you're like, how much did I make last year? I had only made $17,800 in 2016 with a master's degree.
Wow.
So no wonder I was financially like pressed. I didn't even realize that I was living just above poverty level. And so it was the trickle of getting the book. That was a gift. Starting the book, doing what the book said, starting to ask questions. And now I feel like I do have an advantage because I spent years teaching personal growth and development in, the couple and family therapy department of UNLV. So I understand I have a psychology degree, right. Like I understand how not to be afraid when something is in front of me, And so while it was concerning, I was more like a scientist. Yeah. Like, what can we do? What's possible? What do I want? So just asking questions and being curious, saying, well, I guess I would kind of like to get rid of this debt. And then when was the next natural question? And I'm like, it'd be cool to pay it off in like 3 years. And then I can spend that. I would have been 30. The rest of my life building wealth, really preparing if I ever have a family again or whatever. And so it really just was a playful desire to see what was possible, like an experiment that started. And then 2017 was the year that I started managing my money for the first time and like tripled my income and started actually really paying down the debt and learning more, like reading the books and seeking out the information. And so that's why I say it was more of like an avalanche than like this one singular moment. Yeah. It was just like boom, 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 boom,
snowball
boom.
effect.
Exactly.
Not to steal from Dave Ramsey. But I mean, okay, so what about us without the psychology degrees? Because that shit's scary. Yeah. I think that's the thing. I mean, I know as a single person now, the scariest part to me is that I no longer have a partner to shoulder this with. Every decision I make feels bigger and more impactful. And like, I better not screw this up. So I'm sure my therapist can tell me there's a lot of stuff going into that too. But I think the reason I asked you what the trigger was is because I feel like people might be listening to this podcast in a similar situation and know that it's time to go on this journey, but it's scary. It's really scary. So how can someone get over that fear? Or is there an easy first step to take so that it doesn't feel like this thing sitting on your chest?
Yeah. I'll be honest and say that I thought I was a unicorn in my own journey, because I did have the background of all these things that helped me to face stuff until I started to watch other people get results too.
Oh, okay.
Some of them single, some of them single with children, right? And in all of these different circumstances, but able to face the fear and get past it. And so what I'll say is the common denominator for those folks was accountability. So the fastest, easiest way to make progress is to have support. Like literally research suggests like when you have accountability, you're at 95% more likelihood of success. So why do people get a personal trainer? Why do we go to group fitness classes, Zumbas and all of that stuff, Pilates, right? Like why do we go meet up with our friend to go for a walk or whatever? Because it increases our success. So that's the quickest and fastest way. But I will say that there's also this other common denominator of like being in a place where you are kind of sick and tired of being sick and tired. And you're like, I can't do this anymore. And I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but I'm going to have to figure it out. And that determination leads down the rabbit hole of, let me start here and try this out and do this next thing. And that's possible too. It just may or may not take, however much longer to get to where you want to go, doing it on your own. But I would say that those are the common denominators. And when you're saying, being single and trying to figure it out, like I have one student, Jacquees, 2026 now. So 3 years ago, she was on the verge of getting divorced, and she had a toddler at the time. So she did end up getting divorced and having to now sell the home and like figure out how she was going to raise her daughter. And when we spoke, she was like, I really want to be able to travel the world with her and show her things and make sure that she's set up for success, And those were all dreams that she had in January of 2023. And in January 2023 alone, she was able to create an estate plan, build her emergency fund, start her retirement planning. And she did it scared.
Yeah.
And I think that's maybe one of the big pieces is like, I have people tell me all the time when they're getting ready to enroll with me, they're like, I feel nervous. I feel scared. I can feel like fear coming up. And I'm like, perfect. Because that means you're taking yourself out of your comfort zone. That means that you're getting into new territory. And if you want a new outcome, best believe you're going to have to try something new. Yeah. So I actually say that's a good indicator that you're ready.
I'm glad you said that there was a sick and tired factor because I was a personal trainer for a long time. And that's the thing. That's what everybody's at a certain point is like, I can't freaking do this anymore. I'm sick of it. And there's also, I'll speak for myself because I'm sure I'm going to be calling you right after we, finish this. There's a stress and there's a stress and it's like every single month, like I know everything's going to work out, but like my daughter was visiting. I want to have a good time with her. I don't want to worry about stuff. I don't want to have a budget to the nth degree. I want to, if we want to go to an extra place or an excursion, and I want that. I'm going to tell a story about you actually. I hope it's okay.
Okay.
We can cut it if it's not. This would actually, you really inspired me because we have a mutual friend. And she had a birthday, and that's where I saw you in person for the first time. It was karaoke. We were having the best time. And then afterwards, we were all leaving and we were paying. And I was like, I want to do something nice and, pay a little extra or whatever. And you were in front of me and you basically took care of the whole bill. And I hope that's okay to share. And if it's not, we can cut it. But I was so inspired by that because my natural default is that I want to give and I want to be able to give to my friends and I want to have the resources available to express who I am. It wasn't about the money. It was the gesture and being able to do something kind for people that I care about. When I saw you do that, I'm like, that's what I want. And so it was really inspiring to me. So now when I'm thinking about money, I do believe it's a tool. I believe it gives us choice, but I also believe it allows us to really be our fullest selves. And whatever that looks like. There's so many people who, especially these days, the discussion is about how evil money is. And we have the billionaires and the billionaires and people will make judgments about them because they have so many resources. Get into that in a different episode, maybe. Well, no, we'll get into it now. I guess I've never felt that way. I mean, I do think you have a choice in how you earn your money. You have a choice on the responsibility that you create when you are creating enterprises where you're earning this money. But I also believe that you can choose good. And so when I think about my money role models, I think about the people who are doing really great things. And so having these resources, and I always will say money and resources interchange it because I see it as the same thing. It's not about me always accumulating more. It's about, I want to give more. Or like your friend in her example, I want to show my child these things. I want to travel. I want to have these experiences. And to me, that's the thing that between the stress and I'm sick of not having the resources to be fully who I am, that's the trigger. That's the trigger of me wanting to improve my money situation.
Listen, this is why I really do feel strongly that the world's a better place when women have money, because money just makes you more of who you are.
Yeah.
So every single, and I've probably done thousands and thousands of interviews and conversations with mostly women at this point. Every single one of them, if money weren't an object, would want to contribute in the world in a helpful, meaningful way. But the stress of their finances and not knowing what to do and undercharging for their services, not, you know what I mean? Demanding, people will say what you're worth, like charging what they're, even though I'm like, your worth is, your worth is different than what your products and services are. Right. You're priceless. But not charging what their products and services are worth is keeping them small and keeping them from being able to accumulate a lot of money to become whoever they would be with more. And am I a multimillionaire, billionaire yet? No. But what can I do, or how can I use money as a resource now, even if it's in, you know, periodic ways to give myself a taste and a glimpse of what that life looks like on a grander scale, and also be who that person is in whatever way makes sense right now. And so sometimes I think people are like, well, one day when and I'm like, well, how can you today?
Denise Duffield Thomas, who is one of my favorites as well. The first money book I ever read was Get Rich Lucky Bitch. And she talks about that, about like, maybe you can't, you know, go on a shopping spree, but when you're at the store and you're buying underwear, you've got the cheapo underwear and then you've got the little lacy stuff. It's like $3 more. You do that because it's like stepping into that person that you want to be. That doesn't necessarily cost you these big resources, but it's more of a mindset piece of how to do that. So, you know, we've talked about a few people. You've mentioned the book that you read. I may have offhandedly mentioned Dave Ramsey's name. And then Tori Dunlap is another person that I follow sometimes. So we have all, and then there's Ramit. What's his last name?
Sethi.
Thank you, Ramit Sethi. And these are all these big money gurus. I want to know, what do you think they've gotten wrong, or what do you think they're missing that you are able to add?
What most money experts have gotten wrong is making sure to also put a caveat in anything that they create, that personal finance is personal.
Yes.
So when you go on the internet, you're going to see, you can scroll for ages, do this with your money, 10 ways to pay off debt, 3 things to save today, or whatever the case is. But what's missing is, how is it personalized to your specific situation? Because what happens is someone watches something, they try it and it works for a little bit, but it's not sustainable for them.
Yeah.
Or they can't even do the thing because they're not at that point in their journey quite yet.
Yeah.
And so, and the thing is that, like, yes, most people, we can't even necessarily just rely on the content that's out anyway, because it's out of order and in pieces. So what everyone is doing is kind of like quilting together their finances. A little bit of Ramit, a little bit of Dave, a little bit of the Budgetnista, a little bit of the Budget Mom, which is not bad, but you need a personalized plan for your specific financial situation.
Yeah, it's a personal trainer approach. Same thing. Like I always tell people, it's like they're always on the internet downloading these workouts. I'm like, yeah, you haven't made any progress, have you? Or you're so frustrated, or it's taking you 17 years to do one little thing. It's like, versus going out and working or hiring someone who has knowledge, who can talk to you about your individual needs. And then, because I probably have said this on millions of episodes because I'm a gym rat and everything always ties back to exercise for me. But there's a law of individual differences, meaning that every single person is different, and the same thing is not going to work for you. It's going to work as it does for me. So it sounds like that's the same on the money front.
100%. And this is why people feel overwhelmed, because information is not the problem anymore.
No.
Implementation is.
100%.
So when you go and you consume all of these different things, you're like, I don't know where I'm supposed to start. What do I do first, in what order? Or, okay, there's keto, and then there's Whole30, and then there's HIIT, and then there's lists, and then
I know, you're like, what?
Right? Yeah. But like, okay, I'm a 35-year-old postpartum mom and business owner. Like, what is because what works for 20-year-old me even does not work for 35-year-old postpartum me.
Shoot, and what works for 45-year-old me doesn't work for 47-year-old me.
Look, so that's where I'm like, yes, it's great that all this information is out, but we also have to know that we have to be able to filter it and find what makes sense for our specific situation, so that we can not like be on this hamster wheel feeling like we're running ourselves into the ground.
Yeah, and you said something interesting that I was starting to say, does that equate to money too? And I guess the answer would be yes, but what worked for me at 25 and at 35 and at post-divorce and where I am now also can change from a money perspective. And I'm guessing it's both because of mindset and strategy and what my goals might be, because those do change over time.
Absolutely. And it's an ongoing journey. Like, truly, yes, I paid off however much debt in 3 years before I turned 30. That was back in 2020 that I completed that goal. I was able to save $30K within the 6 months after that, the most money I'd ever saved or seen in a bank account in my life. I started growing my business, and then I had a baby, and things kind of start going like this. And then my husband had a stroke and medical things. And so life is also going to continue to happen. I knew how to get out of debt, but I didn't know how to invest. So now I go from learning this thing and creating some level of skill to being a beginner again. Yeah. And you have to always be okay with staying like a student. Even today, I'm still a student, even though I support other people. Just like if you're a trainer, you don't not train. Like,
yeah, you're always learning, always.
There's more research coming out. There's more. So I think it's always about being humble enough to stay like a student, to learn and grow, and just have a heart of service for yourself and for those around you. And I think that that can also be really helpful in keeping in mind, because there's also a level of like, you know, all the things that could come up when you've made a certain level of success. Like I talk to a lot of people like, I'm making more money than I've ever made in my business or in my profession now. Great. That's mastering one part. Yeah. So now we get to help you say, we don't have to worry about money coming in. Now we're shifting our skill set to acquiring the skill of managing the money in a way that matches making the money that you're making now. And so it's kind of like this literal ongoing process.
I think what I really appreciated about what you just said, and I've only heard maybe one other money person approach it this way, is that you are coming from the perspective of a continuous learner, and not I know everything and I'm going to teach you. And I've followed a lot of people. You and one other person are the only people I've ever heard remotely say that. And I think that's refreshing. And for someone who's looking for help, it's also like comforting. Because again, it's like almost being called into the principal's office. You know, I feel like I did something wrong or I did something bad, and now this person's going to tell me what to do. But when you approach it as, hey, we're learning, I've built this muscle, now I'm building this muscle, and I help you build some muscles. You know, we're going to build some money muscles together. That's actually great. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, just like if you're a trainer for the sake of the consistency in the example, you may be a trainer, but you may not be a masseuse. You're a trainer, but you're not a nutritionist. Yeah. And so then you may have times where you're working with someone and it's like they reach a plateau, or like they're feeling a certain, you're like, hey, maybe have you had your blood work done? Yeah. Like, what's your nutrition looking like? Do you need to do a certain type of recovery? And so then you're helping people treatment plan a team, instead of it being that their results are solely reliant on just exercise. Mm-hmm. That if you're really good at what you do, you're helping someone to holistically evolve and understand how to fill their team of support to cover as many areas as possible. And so, like I said, I don't personally know everything. There's plenty of times where I'm like, you actually need to speak to a lawyer about this. This is actually a question for a tax strategist or, you know, a CPA. Do you have one already? This is what questions to ask when you go into that conversation. How to prepare so that you don't feel overwhelmed, and then the meeting ends and then you're like, you know, like I didn't actually ask for what I've talked to people who literally said that they worked for an entire year with a financial planner or financial advisor, and they felt like they got nothing out of it. And
some of us have also had that experience.
And a part of that, I think, is on the professional, but I also am going to say a part of it, I think, is also on the person to get clear on what is the ROI of this support. Yeah. So I'm going to say it's a little bit of both, that the professional needs to say, this is my scope of practice. This is what to expect from our work together. Is that aligned with what you want? Yes or no? So that we're informing the person that we're working with of what they're going to get out of this relationship. But also being the person, because I also talk to a lot of people who've like been scammed, or like they invested in something and like it was lackluster. Like they didn't get out of it what they thought they were going to. And I'm also like, yeah, before you make an investment, you need to do your due diligence.
Yeah.
So you need to be asking questions and making sure that you're clear on what your ROI is out of this thing. And this comes from me being one of them people that when I'm going to invest in something, I've literally reached out to people's testimonials.
Yeah.
Like people who've given a testimonial for somebody, I reach out to them and I say, hey, it looks like you worked with so-and-so. Like, what was that experience like? Mm-hmm. And some people have responded and some people haven't, because sometimes it's not even that there's something wrong with that person. It just may be that it's not a good fit. Yeah. They just might teach in a style that is not aligned with how you learn. And so then we can't blame that they don't have the information, mm-hmm. but they may not have the way of helping you to synthesize or process that information in a way that makes the most sense for you. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of layers to it, and this is why it's like psychological. Yeah. A lot of times, Google it. There's plenty of, like this is what you do with money. But then there's so many personal and psychological factors that come into play.
There are so many differences. I think one of the differences that I would love to get your opinion on is we see a lot of money advice for people who have traditional W-2 jobs. And I don't have a W-2 job. I have an LLC. I do contract work. I do a lot of different things. A lot of the people I know, I mean, we're in Vegas, right? Service industry. So people are working on tips. And then I think about some of my friends who are stay-at-home moms who may not work outside of the home yet, either are in charge of managing finances, or they just want to make sure they personally are in a good financial position because stuff happens, right? So how does someone follow, like how does your approach translate into folks who are not in a W-2 situation?
This is one of the other things that I think is missing from what money experts talk about.
Yes.
Principle-based personal finance.
Okay.
So principles that are universal that apply to anyone. So when I first started like sharing my journey and people reaching out, I've had people reach out I was just on the phone with somebody from Kenya. And so I live in the States and she's in Kenya. I'm like, how do I make sure that what I'm sharing with her is valuable for her, even though the currency that she has is different, the investing options are completely different. Like, what are the principles that cut across everything? And it really first kind of starts with obviously the psychological stuff, but then tactically knowing 3 numbers. The first number is what's coming in. Mm-hmm. The second number is what's going out. And the third number is, what's the difference? Because regardless of what currency, whether you have a W-2 or you have, your 1099s or your multiple income streams, what's coming in, what's going out, and what's the difference? Because that will tell you, kind of like when I did my net worth exercise, where you're at. So if it's negative, then that means there's more money being spent than there is coming in. Is this an income issue or is this a money management issue? And when I started my journey, I had both issues. I had both.
That's all the issues.
Okay, yeah. I had a money making problem and I had a money management problem. And so that it gives you the next step to evaluate. If you're breaking even, like what you're making is what's going out, then you're like, well, is it because I'm not making enough or is it because there's expenses I need to revisit and potentially adjust?
Right.
I don't subscribe to like frugality.
Yeah.
Unless that's aligns with somebody.
It does not align with me. I would like to get my hair done every month. I'm getting close to the moment.
It looks good.
Well, that's because there's a lot of gel in here. Well. Anyway, go ahead.
There is a way where you can both live your life and improve your finances. That's another one of the things that I think is missing. You have to cut all of your, especially for women, you should be couponing and like cutting contracting. And I'm like, no, like you can make more. You can come up with a strategy to really allow yourself to enjoy the things you value, but maybe be a little bit more ruthless. Ramit Sethi will say like getting ruthless with the things that you don't necessarily value as much. So I'm going to spend more money on plane tickets. I'm going to upgrade my rental. We're going out of town next week. Like, give me the Wagoneer. Yeah. But I shop at Ross and I'm okay with that because I'm not like the fashion girl of America,
right.
you know?
But you still look good.
I do my best. Okay.
I've seen your Instagram.
But everybody's different. So knowing your values and what you care about makes a difference. Now, if there's more money coming in than what you're spending, then it's more so about looking at, okay, well, how are we managing the money to be able to really help us hit our financial goals? And so regardless of whether you're a stay-at-home mom, whether you have a W-2, you're an entrepreneur, or you're in Tanzania. Those 3 numbers are going to give you quick insight into where you're at, and then what to do next potentially. So I feel like that's one of the helpful things to do. And when we do this exercise with folks, they're like, oh, interesting. Sometimes it's like a rude awakening like I had, but sometimes they're like, wow, it's not as bad as I thought, because we're doing a lot of mental math and a lot of mental calculation and a lot of like catastrophizing in our brains. But when we get the numbers down, it's like they don't lie.
Right.
And they tell a story.
Hips and numbers, they don't lie.
And well, okay. And if we can at least get clarity, even if the numbers are what we want, there's a level of peace that comes with being empowered to know which direction to go in.
Right. Can we go back to something you said? Because you'd mentioned something like, especially women get told for these like cost cutting strategies because women are wasteful and we spend money. What are some of the lies or the messages that you think that women get that might be a little different than men when it comes to money?
Obviously, there's like an actual wealth gap between men and female earning.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that we don't have the potential for earning. It just might mean that we have to get creative. It just might mean that we have to, do things a little bit differently. And so I think one of the lies that we're told, and that we also adopt and like take on, is that like, well, when I was going to school to become a therapist, well, you didn't go into this business to make money.
Oh God, I hate that.
Did I go into this business to eat ramen?
Right. I didn't want to be Po either.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like, I mean, yes, I love to serve people. And I think it's like like this narrative that like, if you're serving, it needs to come at a self-sacrifice. Like, you shouldn't expect to make a lot of money if you're working in service.
Teachers, nonprofit educators, all that stuff. I see that all the time. And not only is it a message that outside people or men are saying, I think it's a message that we are reinforcing with each other. So anytime you see these conversations around pay gaps, or teachers are a great one, because somebody's union is going to be, striking at some point, and they're like, well, you're here to educate, you're here for the children and all this other stuff. But it's like they work more, and I've been married to a teacher, male, but still a teacher, and I have friends who are teachers, and like they work nonstop, 24/7. Oh, you get the summers off. No, they don't, because they've worked the summer, or the equivalent of the summer, throughout the year, and yet they're still poorly paid versus any other profession. And then you're supposed to just be okay with that anyway.
And oftentimes have to work through the summer, to continue to make ends meet. So just because they have the summers off doesn't mean they can take the summers.
Right, there'll be a second job or a third job. You remember Mean Girls when you saw what's her name at like a TGI Fridays equivalent or something? Oh, Tina Fey. Tina Fey's
tutoring.
Characters. Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're picking up other
Driver's
stuff.
ed.
Now, doesn't mean that they can't build wealth. It just means that they have to be strategic. And so you may not need to earn millions of dollars to have the lifestyle that you want.
Right.
You do need to be clear on what your dream outcome is, and align your plan to that dream.
Right. So, okay. So myth number 1, if you're in the service industry, you're going to be Po, and you just have to accept it.
No, thank you.
Right.
What is Dave Ramsey? A teacher.
Yeah.
He makes millions and millions of dollars a year. Yeah. Right. Like, so there's always an exception to the rule. Like, are we going to be Dave? Probably not. But like, maybe you don't necessarily want or need Dave money. You just want your cut, your piece of the pie.
I just want to go to Europe once a year, something like that.
People aren't going to pay me, blah, blah, blah. So you're a business owner. You're like, well, no one's going to pay that.
Okay, so that's another myth, that people aren't going to pay for the
price.
Things that people won't
so
pay the
I'm
price.
going to discount the price, or I'm gonna charge this because this is what I think people will pay, or this is what people have told me they will pay. And
I hit up against that belief because I am doing a retreat this fall. And I put a premium price tag on that sucker because I know what kind of outcome someone can get. And it is life-changing. And not only that, I'm rolling out the red carpet. So when you come to the retreat, like, you will be taken care of. And first, there's an actual real expense to that. And then there's the transformation of the service. And so it was so cute because my sister, who's really, I'm very proud of how she manages money. And she's a self-employed and a therapist, actually, in Texas. And she's like, oh, great, you're having a retreat. How much is it? And I told her the price. She's like, well, that's great. I can't do this now, but maybe I can do it next year. And I love that response because it wasn't, that's too high. Because I know there are going to be people at that number who will make a decision not to come, and that's okay. But it took a lot of mental work for me to say, no, that's the price, because that's what it needs to be in order to align with the transformation and the service that I'm providing. But it took a lot, because old me would have been like, ooh, maybe I should cut it in half. And then I would have been doing all this work and then broke afterwards.
So what was it that came up when you're like, this is what I'm going to have to charge?
It was exactly what you said, that people won't pay this.
Why?
Well, I've done a lot of work. So now I'm like, you know what? As soon as that came up, I said, but the right people will pay it.
When you pay attention.
Yes. And you are investing, because I had to do that. There were times where, and even right now, there are things that I'm investing in right now where in my head I was like, can I? But if it was really important to me, and it was, I will find a way. And I did. And I have.
We always do, though.
And they're the things that help me get to the next level. So it truly is an investment. In fact, I think Reese Witherspoon, who's someone else I really like, with her Hello Sunshine, she gave some sort of speech at some point, and she said, you know what? People are telling me, oh, you're actress, you're washed up, you're old, whatever. I think we're the same age. And she's like, I said, you know what? The best thing I can invest in right now is me. So she's like, I dumped a lot of money. I created my own company, and now it's thriving and doing great as far as we know. But yeah, I keep thinking the best thing I can invest in is me. And I know what that return is, because like you said, I'm paying attention, because I'm like, I'm getting every last dime out of this sucker. You know, I'm not going to miss this thing because I'm coming, because I paid for it. But yeah, I think that's a really great point that you make in this whole idea that we discount ourselves before someone else can do it for us.
I mean, and that's where a lot of what we do also is self-trust work, because we've made choices that got us into a situation that eroded our own confidence, our belief in our ability to follow through.
Yeah.
And so when it's time to take a chance again, we don't trust ourselves to some extent to actually show up and follow through. And then that keeps us from taking this might be the chance, like this might be the thing that you try that actually works. But if you don't give it a shot, that like your retreat might be the thing that literally sets someone's life on a completely different trajectory. But if they discount themselves before giving it a shot, then they'll never know.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, especially women of color, are not in the habit or groomed to understand the value of investing in themselves in this particular way. We'll do the maintenance.
Yeah.
Hair, nails, skin, those types of things, which, believe me, we need to do.
Good stuff. Right.
And what the research says is that people impulse spend at least $3,000 to $4,000 a year.
I believe that.
That's bare minimum. Like
100%.
There's people spending $5,000, $6,000, $10,000, $20,000 a year. That is impulse, unexpected, unplanned expenses. That's fine. But how often are you being intentional about investing $3,000, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 in your own healing, in your own growth, in your health, in your
way that's aligned with what you want,
with what you actually want? Because people do all this other stuff and then they're still unhappy by the end of it.
Because it's easy and it's fast. And also, I feel like that you brought up women, and Black women in particular. I feel like a lot of messages I got are about taking care of other people, that everybody else was more important than me. And my grand thing, especially as mothers too, because I'm a mom, you're a mom, that we sacrifice for our children. So we give to all these, we sacrifice for our partners. And I think, thankfully, I'm in a healthy relationship, and we do a lot of give and take. There's a lot of real partnership around the partners, especially when it comes to like supporting and investing in each other. So, but these were very different messages that I had growing up, or what I would even see on TV. It's like, no, you were praised for being that woman who gives and sacrifices herself, and you're all crazy and tired, and everybody else is thriving because you did that, and you should be proud of that. And I do feel like those highly negative patriarchal messages have resurfaced as of late. But anyway, so not investing in yourself, not feeling like you're worth it, discounting that other people stay broke. Are there any other messages that we get as women that come up a lot for the people in your program?
I guess I would probably also say that this idea that, and I think I was watching the Bras Off podcast, and it was like starting over in your 40s or something, right?
Yes.
And so there's this feeling of I'm late, or, you know, like I'm too old now, so like that ship has sailed or something. And I say, like, you're not behind, you're being refined. Everything that you've been through was experience that enriches your ability to make choices now.
Yeah.
And yes, right now, your reality is the culmination of the choices that you made before. But your future will be the reality of the choices you make today. Yeah. And so if you're in some people say they're in their 30s, you know, like they feel old in their 30s, they feel old in their 40s, they feel old in their 60s. And I'm like, hey, you still waking up.
Right.
So if you're still waking up, you got a chance. You know what I mean? And especially in today's day and age, probably always, but I'm like, oh my gosh, like, and I just naturally tend toward like optimism and seeing possibility. I'm like, there's no better time than now to build wealth. There's no better time than now for women in particular to make more money, to solve problems in the world. Why? Because the structures and the powers that be are being trusted a lot less, or being questioned, or, you know, seem a little shaky.
Yeah.
So I think that the world moving forward will be governed by problem solvers.
Okay.
And why not women and us be the ones that are contributing to the solutions in the world's problems? So regardless of whether you're 40, 50, 60, 70, I love going like on Instagram or YouTube or whatever and seeing people that are in their like 60s and they've got a YouTube channel and they're uploading videos, and people are like, I love those videos when people are like in their 80s and they're telling like their lessons and life stories and all of this stuff. Like, people love that stuff. You have wisdom when you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s to share with the world. And so that may not be that you are front facing, you know, being a content creator or something like that. But it really is like, what solutions can I provide for the problems that I see in the world, and putting yourself out there to give it a shot, because there's something called an encore career. When did Vera Wang start making dresses?
Oh my gosh,
is it Morgan Freeman
40s.
or Samuel L. Jackson? Old.
Yes.
Colonel Sanders, is that his name in KFC?
Yeah.
Old.
That should be the segment.
Old. Yeah.
Martha Stewart.
Old. It's hope.
Yeah.
If they could do it, then why not you? So yeah, I say you're not behind, you're being refined. If you're coming upon this awakening now, perfect.
Yes. Yes.
Perfect.
That is such good advice. And I think that's a good time to pivot a little bit, because I wanted to introduce, first, I am so grateful. We're going to wrap up some of these lessons, but I did want to pause because we have this new segment called Bras Off Confessions. I will give you a chance. I'll read some, and I will give you a chance to make one. And then one of them is money related. So I want people to understand that this podcast is really about being very open, very vulnerable. Like, I just told y'all that I need money help. You know, and I want this to be a place where you don't feel any kind of shame around whatever your situation is or whatever feelings you might be having. And so I wanted to add a segment called Bras Off Confessions, because I want to normalize how we're really feeling about stuff. Because again, like we mentioned about the money situation, a lot of people don't talk about it because we're afraid that we're behind, we're too late, we're doing something wrong. And honestly, we are all on the same boat. There's no such thing as normal. There is none. And so when I posted a question like, tell me about some of the things that are really on your mind, or what's the most toxic thought you've had or thing you've done, or something that you like, ooh, I don't want to tell anyone. And one person, I had a couple responses recently. And one was, if I'm being honest, the whole blending of families is slowly wearing on me. Real. So just, I'm here with you, person. And then here's one that I thought was funny to include for the money show. I Venmo requested an ex situationship for wasting my time. It was $262 for me. That's a way we can make money. I loved it. I want to know if that person actually got that money. Shoot.
Might as well try.
I might try it. So if some of y'all get a Venmo Meetings, wasting my time. It's wasting my time. No, but I thought that was good. I was curious, is there anything, whether it's money related or not, that you'd love to throw out there and normalize, whether it's about you or something that you've heard that people might really be afraid, or you've heard this thing and they're like, well, don't tell anybody, but XYZ.
Yeah, I can be vulnerable.
Okay.
And share that when I first started my debt-free journey, it was about becoming debt-free and kind of like staying debt-free, right? Mm-hmm. Other than maybe potentially a home. Mm-hmm. And I did that. I became debt-free, right? And at some point, like, my mindset around things shifted. Mm-hmm. And so then I did go back into debt. Mm-hmm. And I have so many women and so many students that I've talked to, because I think there was like this wave of culture that's like, become debt free and never use debt again. Debt is like the worst thing in the world, you know? Mm-hmm. And what came up for me was, yeah, like past me was not good with debt.
Yeah.
She didn't know how to manage it. But if I never give myself the opportunity to show myself how I've grown, I'm pretty much saying I'm still that person.
Yeah.
And so I did go back into debt, but I know how to utilize it in a way that's not going to put me in that position ever again. Mm-hmm. I've not gone into that much debt, yet again. And maybe I will, because I will get a business loan and so I think for women, last thing is that like, we need to stay away from debt. And there's a different thing between like debt and leverage, and how to use it and have a plan to be able to make something of it or get a return, or, like show like you can do this. You've taken debt out before and you've paid it off and you can do it again. And so that was something for me when it first like was happening, because I kind of share things public. I'm like, oh gosh, what's everyone going to say?
Judgment.
What's everyone going to think? Well, it really doesn't matter, because they aren't paying my bills.
Exactly.
But it was something I was like, wow. But I'm like, we're all allowed to grow. We're all allowed to change. We're all allowed to shift in our way of seeing things. Mm-hmm. And what a great way to like show yourself that you've evolved, to try something that you've tried before with a different. Now, okay, I'm not sitting here to tell nobody to go take out all kinds of debts. But that like you've probably grown and can give yourself some credit where it's due in areas.
Yeah.
And it's okay if you have to use your emergency fund. That's what it's for. Like, that sort of thing. And I've had so many students who are like, they felt this shame of having paid off their debt and then having to use it again. And I'm like, it's okay. Like, what a gift that we even in this country can have access to capital and use money and and have the resources that we don't have to pay back immediately. Right. Like in other places, if you ain't got it, you just ain't got it.
Right.
And so we have such a gift and a privilege to be able to use things and be responsible enough to pay it back.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that confession. Well, I'm inspired to make a confession too. So I've been really open about my desire to never work a W-2 9-to-5 again, because it just feels, it's not aligned with me. It feels very stifling. And I've told the story, and I think I created a video on it, which I'll link here, about how I quit my 6-figure job. But I also am very sensitive, because I see a lot of creators talking and glamorizing what that means. And so I'm going to give you guys the real skinny. It was not glamorous. Now, am I still happy that I quit that job? Absolutely. It was the right thing for me. But the aftermath of that, especially financially, was rough. I had one of the roughest years financially in my life in 2025. I just kind of want to erase it a little bit, because the stress was there. I went from having a 6-figure income to nothing. And I made a very conscious decision. At first, I was trying to transition out, but it became a lot more urgent for me to leave, just for my own mental health and well-being, physical health and well-being. And I left. And I think I cried like 2 weeks prior to making the decision. And I cried, but as soon as I did it, it felt really right. And then 2 weeks later, or whenever that last check came in, panic struck. I am someone who's very well educated. I've made a lot of money throughout my life. I've been a successful entrepreneur, and I'd never been in a situation where I truly had no income. And it was scary as hell. And when you make big decisions and when you make big choices, there are going to be times where it's very, very scary. And I don't ever want to downplay that, because I feel like sometimes I get on and people tell these beautiful stories and kind of gloss over that time where they were eating ramen, or they had to borrow money from family, or you had negative $10.62 in your bank account, or you had a negative $1,000 in the bank account. I don't think they let you get that negative anymore. But all I'm saying is that I want to be really real with y'all and tell you the hard truth around when you make big life decisions or changes, it's not always pretty. And so thankfully, I'm in a much better place now, but it took a whole lot. It was very stressful. I took a couple of jobs that I would never want to do again. I've done DoorDash. I've driven around. That was me delivering your McDonald's, and I did not appreciate that 82-cent tip. But I did it, and I did it because when you talk about alignment and where I was supposed to be, it's like, this is a temporary setback. God's always got me. I'm not going to be homeless on the street. My family still got me somewhere. I'm gonna be okay. My credit score might suck for a little bit, but I believe in myself, and I believe in what I'm doing. So, yeah, and it was at that time I launched Bras Off. So when we talk about leap of faith, I didn't know how to do. That's why the first episodes are so ugly, y'all. It was Zoom and whatever editing software I could put together. I had no idea. So yeah, that's my Bras Off confession. So
thanks for sharing that, because you are absolutely. I have a student who I talk to regularly, and she's like, no one talks about this part, because she left her job. It's nearly 6-figure position, if it wasn't a 6-figure position, like a year and some change ago. Mm-hmm. And it's financially one thing, but psychologically a whole nother game. And so it's really, really tough. Mm-hmm. And people make it look cute on the internet. But some of them are either not being honest, or everyone is just choosing what they're sharing. And so, there's always two sides.
Yeah, I'll share it all. I'll tell you all the ugly stuff. But no, this has been such a great conversation, and I've learned a lot. And I'm sitting here in my head, I'm like, I wish I had a notepad. I'd be taking notes. So what if people want to work with you? What is your program, and how can someone reach out and start working with you and get all the mindset advice and keep going?
Yeah, so we've got the Financial Freedom Accelerator. Mm-hmm. That's what Fiorella's in. And I only have one program. Okay. So we're very streamlined, straight to the point.
Thank you.
And in that community, really, it's more of a program and an experience than anything. Community is having the strategy, which is essentially your roadmap, like me trying to get here today, put the location in the phone. Yep. It gives me the options of the routes. That's the first thing, the strategy. This is where you start. This is what you need to do. Mm-hmm. The second part being systems. So those are like your safety net, because a lot of us are spending money based on vibes. instead of spending money based on like what the data says, and having systems in place so that when we don't feel like it, we're still making progress financially. Yeah. And then the third thing is support. Because again, 95% more likely to hit your goals when you have accountability and support and community. And that's one of the things I'm really proud of, that all of our students say is like, oh my gosh, to be a part of a group of women who may be from different industries, different walks of life, but are all working to get their finances in order for the greater good of their families and the world is like unmatched. And so they say it's lonely at the top, but I only think that's because you go alone. Yeah. And so who are you going with, or who are you taking with you? And that's what we're around to do, is make the journey less lonely for women financially. And to get connected, they can either DM me and use the word freedom to be able to book a call to chat. Or just say, hey, if you have a question, like DMing me is the easiest way, because it's literally me. I'm a human.
And that's like, at Jacent Wamala.
Jacent Wamala.
And we'll make sure we look those and link those in the notes.
Yeah. And then here, like I said, personal finance is personal. So that's why you need to talk to a human. ChatGPT is cool, like AI is fun, but you need to talk to a human about your specific situation so that you can be led down the right path for you right now. Just yesterday, I said to someone, hey, I actually think that it makes more sense for us to catch up at the end of the year after you have some of these transitions. Yeah. And so the goal isn't necessarily that we actually work together. The goal is for us to figure out what your next move is, regardless of whether it's we work together or not.
Yeah. A few of the things that I got out of our conversation, which I'm really excited about, is personal finance is personal, the 3 B's, and reminding ourselves that we get told a lot of BS all the time, and that's not the truth. So I'm so glad you came. I hope you guys really enjoyed listening to Jacent and I's conversation. And if anything, that I was going to say, now you know way too much about us. But I hope you continue to listen to Bras Off. You can watch it, listen to it, find it. You can at Finally Jennifer on YouTube, on Instagram. We're on your favorite podcast player as well. So make sure you check it out. And like I said, there are some other videos we've talked about, and I'll link to that in the description. But just encourage you to continue listening. Forward this to a friend, especially someone you might think might need some of this advice. Maybe it's you who's the friend. I don't know. And that's good stuff. But I just encourage you to listen, and then check out my stories for Bras Off confessions prompts, because I'm going to be asking all sorts of questions, and we might read your confession anonymously on our next show. So thank you, Jacent. I'm so glad you were here. This was awesome. Can't wait to actually work with you in the future.
Thank you for having me. It's so good.
Yay.
Thanks for listening to Bras Off. If you love the show, make sure you go to brasoffpod.com to subscribe and join our community.